Hi, Grace Judson here with another installment of the Leadership Geek on video. And today we are here to talk about communication styles because communication is without a doubt the most important skill for a manager and leader. And it starts with understanding the basics of communication styles. Is there someone on your team who frustrates you or maybe is frustrated by you when you try to connect, whether it's about project status, task delegation, or really anything at all? Maybe there's someone you just can't quite seem to get through to without a lot of back and forth discussion that really ought to be unnecessary. Welcome to the wonderful world of communication styles. So here's an interesting thing. We generally just assume that if we can talk and write reasonably well, we have what we need to be able to communicate. And in school, we might learn a bit more about writing well, or maybe about how to present or how to do a public speech. But even in business schools, there is not much focus on foundational communication skills and the differences in communication styles. And that's why I have a whole in-depth module in my Empowered Leadership online program that covers this in depth. And in fact, it's the module out of all the 8 modules in that program that my students tend to come back to and refer to after they've completed the program, and that they say they get the most from. So, okay. What is a communication style? Let's start with one you'll recognize right off. Have you noticed that some people love to start a conversation, even a professional work conversation, with some preliminary talk? Hey, how was your weekend? Have you seen this new show? How are your kids doing? And all that kind of thing, right? But then there are other people who really don't want to go into that and much prefer to just dive right into the topic that they're there to talk about. That is one of 5 different, I'll call them continuum scales, a trajectory that make up the different communication styles. I call this one small talk versus just the facts. Another one is big picture versus all the details. There are some people who just want the 30,000 foot level, and others who want to know all the details right down to the smallest level. Okay, third, we have those people who want to talk, either face to face. Well, I guess we're not doing face to face right now when I'm recording this during the pandemic, but face to face on a video call or at least on the phone, versus those people who hate picking up the phone and would far prefer to send a written message, whether it's email, text, or Slack or whatever. That's the third one. Number 4, formal versus informal. Some people are fine with ad hoc meetings and don't mind if you poke your head into their office or cubicle, but others really hate being interrupted and want you to schedule a meeting with them instead of just sort of bumping into them. Finally, 5th, we have the competitive style versus the collaborative style. The naturally competitive person, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they tend to value hierarchy and they want you to go up the proper chain of command. And they do often find it hard to accept someone else's ideas over their own, or even to accept input into their ideas. The collaborative individual, on the other hand, can feel snubbed or put down, or that their ideas are being stepped on and discounted by the competitive person on the team, because the collaborative person wants to discuss and hash ideas out together. Okay, so that's great. We have all 5 trajectories or type comparisons identified. Here's a quick picture of them. What do we do with this information, right? Well, there's a worksheet and a style comparisons write-up that is part of the Empowered Leadership Communication module that I mentioned a minute ago. I'm making both of those available to you. There's a link down there in the video description to get access to them. So, first off, make sure you understand the 5 different style contrasts, the trajectories, the scales, because nobody falls on one side or the other. Think about yourself and the people you work with, and your friends and family too, for that matter. Where do they fall on the scales? And like I said, no one's going to be 100% on one side or the other, especially not in all situations. They may vary from one situation to the next, work versus family versus friends, and so on. You can use the worksheet that I just put up on the screen here. It's linked, like I said, it's part of what's linked down in the video description. And you can use that worksheet for each of the significant people in your work and your personal life. And then here's where the magic happens. You get to adapt. Yes, you get to adapt. You've heard of the golden rule, I'm sure. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But the problem here is that our natural default, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, that may not be the other person's preference. If you're an all the details person, you'll naturally default to giving someone all the details, whether they want them or not. And on the flip side, if you're a big picture person, you will frustrate the detail-oriented person by only giving them the big picture when they're looking for details. So once you've figured out what, for instance, your team members prefer on these 5 scales, use that information to communicate with them more effectively. Same thing with your boss, your colleagues, your family, your friends. Now you're operating on what's called the platinum rule. Do unto others as they want to be done unto. And yes, it is an effort to be intentional and flexible in this way, but you know what? You will get so much better results when you communicate with people in their preferred styles. So go get those resources that I mentioned. It's at this link, which you can see here on the screen, but it's also down there in the video description where you just can click through. There's a worksheet where you can figure out where people important in your life are on the 5 scales, and there's a handout with examples of how the different types interact. I know you will find it useful, so go get it. And if you found this video useful, you know the drill, right? Click the thumbs up button, subscribe, share it with your colleagues, and give me a comment below. What aha moments did you have? What do you recognize about maybe one of the communication challenges that you've had at work or at home? Take care.